Join us. Welcome again for our video presentation of Veterans Advocacy Training. We're here at Coffee Strong, which is a GI coffee house just outside the gates of Joint Base McCord-Lewis in Lakewood, Washington. And today's session will be a very interesting topic, and that's analyzing the received information. Over the last several sessions, which all of you are now seeing on Blip TV, we've interviewed various different veterans, including active duty personnel, and started gathering information. Now we have a lot of that information, and Lena Swanson has said, you know, it's time that we need to start thinking how the VA people will rate. And so we have a session where we're going to pretend to be VA rating specialists and go through the interviews that we've held and pretend that the VA comp and pension exams have given us some information. We're going to look at that, and we're going to look through the service medical records, some of the claims that were there, and then we need to take a look at, you know, how this Form 21-526 was filled out or should be filled out. But we're going to go through one of the actual interviews that we've held and some of the claims, and then we need to take a look at one of the documents that we're going to use, and that is the Federal Veterans Laws, Rules, and Regulations, which is a pretty hefty one, but that's going to become a very significant source for us in filling it out. And whenever we need any additional backup material, we'll go through the Veterans Benefits Manual. So one of the things, Lena, I'm going to ask you if you sort of read that first part where we go through the steps, sub-steps, and then I'm going to ask the class members to take a look at some of the questions that we're going to be looking at.
Okay. It says pretend to be rating specialists and go through the interviews we've held. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Then pretend they've had their VA comp and pension exams. Now we're going to look at the service medical records, the results of the VA exams, the 526, the veteran's claim for service-related disabilities. We have to search the service medical records to see if there's any documentation in the record first. Number one, we're going to establish whether the file was claimed within the first year after discharge. If a chronic condition, if the vet has a chronic condition and filed within the first year after discharge, the documentation need not be in the record. If filing more than a year after discharge, the service medical records must reflect treatment for the problem, and the veteran must submit evidence of medical treatment showing the continuity of treatment since discharge. C, the diagnosis of a chronic condition need not be made in the first year, but private medical treatment records must show treatment for the symptoms. Assuming the veteran has submitted all the necessary evidence and has been examined by a VA physician or a VA contractor, the VA rating specialist must now correlate the service medical records, the VA exam, and the veteran's claim.
Now you have some questions, yeah, and I'm going to ask Perry if you would read that first question so we can take a look at what we're going to dive into.
Did the VA examination support the claims of the claims the veteran has submitted? The rating specialist must review the C&P exam to determine whether the examiner performed all the necessary tests, x-rays, etc. If not, the exam must be repeated or returned to the examiner, and the veteran may have to be brought back to the VA for another exam, or the examiner must explain the reasoning for failure to perform the necessary test. Example, the veteran is claiming back, knee, and shoulder problems. The examiner did the x-rays but did not do the range of motion test or pain on motion test. Since these conditions are part of the rating process, the exam is incomplete.
Yes, it is. And
So
that's-
a question on that then. So if you're looking at this and you don't see that, as an advocate, you can go back to the VA and ask, say, we have to have this. Or they have to say why they're not doing it.
Right. The rating specialist, when he gets the results of the VA exam, will go through there, and if it does not show the range of motion test, the physician's comments
Okay, so
on the range of motion, it's up to the rating specialist to ship it back.
this is all within VA.
Normally within the
Yeah,
VA,
okay.
that's correct.
And Mark, would you read the second question that we're going to be taking a look at?
Okay. At this stage, everything there is there on the top of the desk. The rating specialist must search through the 38 CFR Chapter 4 rating pages and assign the proper diagnostic codes for each condition claimed by the veteran. The specialist must then go through the VA exam and determine the severity of the condition. Then go back to the rating code and find the percentage rate that fits those conditions.
Yes, and why is that necessary, class? Why would we see that as an essential thing that we would need to do? Because what often happens?
Well, actually, they might say that there's something there, but we don't rate it. It's a 0 rating. They would say it's not a VA condition.
When we've interviewed the veteran and we determine that that should be much higher rated than what it is.
Well, bear in mind, we're not doctors, right?
No.
But when you say a 0 rating, what you're actually saying is less than 10%. You're not denying the claim. But the veteran comes in to see you after he gets the award letter, and you're looking at the rating decision, and you're saying to yourself, you're asking the veteran his symptoms, and you're looking at the diagnostic code, and you're saying, hey, wait a minute, this is not right. So at that point you can file an appeal, or you can, if you were in the federal building, like some of these service organizations are, you can go down to the rating specialist and show them that, hey, this guy's worse off than what you're saying. They can reconsider then. But normally, if you're out in the community, normally the process would be then, if you don't believe that that's rated properly, then that's when you file the notice of disagreement.
So if the rating specialist is doing the job properly, they're going to look at each condition, the record, and say, here's what I believe it merits, here's why, and
Correct.
here's everything that supports that.
That's correct.
The third question, Lena, that we're looking at is the specialist will then go through and add up all the percentages. And the rating, the most severe condition first, we're going to be putting down, and then all the others. And since 10 and 10 don't make 20, we've learned that with the VA on their math. The rating specialist has to look up on the chart, which can be found on 38 CFRs. Somewhere in chapters 3 or 4, and we'll look that up there.
That's correct. I don't know where it's at.
Well, that'll be one of the things that the class can start looking at.
Good, because 10, if you're rated at 10% and you go and add another 20%, that does not make 30. That the second, whatever it is, it must go above the halfway mark, like 5. If it goes above 5, then you go up to the next rating.
Now, in a previous session, we had a practice session interviewing Perry, who's with us right now, but Perry is also becoming an accredited claims agent, so he'll probably be looking at his own claims, but we'll be looking at it with him. And in interviewing Perry, Lena, you came down with a list of things that we need to start looking through the 38 CFR. Would you list those conditions that we're going to be looking at today, where this is now going to become a hands-on thing where we're going to start doing some rating ourselves?
The post-traumatic stress disorder, by the way, which is diagnostic code 9411. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, acid reflux, tinnitus, cervical spine, lower lumbar, right wrist fracture with limited range of motion, left knee pain, right knee pain, post-concussion syndrome, which is now TBI, I understand, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and hearing loss.
And that last one is going to be a little more difficult
Oh,
for
it's
us.
going to be a nightmare.
But there's plenty of other things that we can help Perry in looking through that information. So what I'm going to do, Prof, is turn it over to you, and we will become the students in your class in gathering this information. Post-traumatic stress disorder, the 9411. Walk us through where we're going to go through these materials so that we can start looking at what we've interviewed Perry for, what we've heard, and what he was claimed, and the materials that he brought back, but what we think it should be, and how we can start putting our documents together.
Well, the VA rates post-traumatic stress disorder either 0%, 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, or 100%. You don't want to be rated at 100%.
And you currently, Perry, are rated
At
at
30?
30%, correct?
Okay, let's go back over
And when
here.
was that rating?
I think it was November of 2008.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, the combined rating table, I just ran across it, is on page, page 763 of the 2009 edition of the Federal Laws and Regulations. It's 38 CFR 4.25, and it continues over to the next page.
So page 763 is where we're going
Right.
to start there.
It's now, for 30 years, I never fully understood how they came to those conclusions, by the way. So know that that's not an easy situation unless you're a mathematician. Oh. Now here's the problem, not with post-traumatic stress, but assignment by the VA of a wrong diagnostic code can be a clear and unmistakable error, a CUE.
Yes.
I think Ken Carpenter made mention of that, especially where it's a related condition. But had they put the proper diagnostic code on it, it might have been a higher rating.
And again, we're trying to resolve that at the local level, the one that's closest to the veteran.
Right.
Although some of those CUE claims, as we found out from Ken Carpenter, can go all the way up to the U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans.
Oh yes, oh yes. I'm looking for that 9411. Where is it? By the way, chronic fatigue syndrome can be found at CFR 4.88.
Now, if we didn't know where to find that, and we can put that down on chronic fatigue. You found that on what again?
It's on page 801.
Okay.
And that's that CFR site?
That's a CFR, 38 CFR 4.88A. And by the way, the percentage evaluation for hearing impairment is on page 800, 38 CFR 4.86.
4.86. Okay.
And I don't understand that either.
Okay.
Now I'm looking for 9411, diagnostic code 9411.
Page was the rating table.
The combined rating table is 763
The rating table is on page 763.
and 4.
Okay.
It's a good judge's character.
For the purpose of the tape, Shotzi is a service dog belonging to Perry and does a very good job when anyone new comes into the presence where Perry is. I think Shotzi was more startled than Perry was. Good progress, Perry.
She protects my back.
There you go. If a person didn't know where to find that, is there an alphabetical or some
Yes,
type
there
of
is, if I can find it. I made a list of it, I made a note of it. Where you can get them in numerical order or alphabetical order. Establishing the diagnostic code.
When any of you in the class see a particular rating for the things that we've read through, acid reflux, tinnitus, cervical spine, lower lumbar, go ahead and shout that out, because then we'll
Okay,
do that.
arthritis you'll find under diagnostic code 5003, and it goes through the various kinds.
That's a degenerative joint disease?
Yeah, it goes through several of it.
So
5003,
okay,
and this must be the numerical. I'm in the alphabetical section now on 856. Yeah, it's the, I had it right here. Numerical index of disabilities. And it starts at 843.
That's the Appendix B.
Yeah. Yes. Shoulder and arm, did we talk about shoulders and arms? We didn't, did we? No. Okay. Elbows or forearms?
Is that one thing to be listed?
No.
you did have one on spine though, and I
Yeah, I'm
noticed
gonna
that
get
that is,
What is that one? Where you at?
there's several listed right here.
Okay, but the spine, what, you're in appendix B, but what
Page
page?
846.
I was coming over there, okay. The spine.
What page is that?
846.
Yeah. And the diagnostic code for vertebral fracture or dislocation, sacroiliac injury and weakness, lumbar is, diagnostic code is 5237.
Now the lumbar
He's got the lumbar,
yeah, which is,
5237?
5237.
okay,
Degenerative arthritis in the spine is 5242. Did they ever at any time come up with disc syndrome, invertebral disc syndrome or anything? No dislocation, no fractures on your cervical spine? Well, it must be in this category somewhere between the diagnostic code 5230 and 5243. Okay, now the knees. Do you have any range of motion problems in your knees?
At times.
Say reoccurring.
reoccurring.
Okay, limitation of flexion is diagnostic code 5260. Limitation of extension, straighten them out. Can it go straight without pain?
Do you ever have pain?
Yes,
And straighten them out.
yes.
Okay,
Okay.
the code then,
See that limitation
extension would be 5261.
5261, tibia and fibula. What is that? Apparently.
That's the wrist joints? Or the
Tibia
lower
and
arm?
fibula, no, it's in the leg. It's in
Oh,
the
no,
leg.
you're right. Tibia and fibula is going to be the calf.
The calf, but that's those big bones and
No,
the little
excuse me.
bone.
The shin. My my anatomy is not good.
Mine is, but that's, you know, as the time goes by, in the years when I was practicing, I had a skeletal picture up on my wall that broke down the entire skeletal body where I could go and look if I had to find something. Okay, now the fibromyalgia, they just rated that.
I just saw that too.
Did you?
Yeah, now I can't remember where it is. That's a degenerative nerve disease?
It looks like. It's a nerve problem. By the way, on the wrist,
Yeah.
Neurological, would that be a neurological condition?
yeah, it would be.
Okay, that's on, starts on 851.
851. Just a minute.
Fibromyalgia. And it's going to be
851. Brain.
Say 851?
yeah, but I'm not seeing it.
The wrist section there is also on page 845.
Yeah.
Okay, as I'm looking through this, I'm seeing other things that I have ratings for that's not on here.
Oh, sing out.
The skin,
Skin condition.
Skin.
yes.
Okay.
What's the diagnostic code for it?
And give us the page number and then the code.
The page is 850,
All right.
and we'd have to look through them to figure out a code.
Okay. I got a code for fibromyalgia.
Okay.
It's 5025.
5025. What page?
851.
Well, actually, I'm on the alphabetical schedule, so
Oh.
Oh, bless your heart. Okay.
that might work easier for me. So 5025 would be,
And for our purposes, the alphabetical schedule begins where?
it begins on page 853, Appendix C.
Appendix C then. Okay.
8.
That might be
I
an
missed
easier
that.
way.
Oh, no, I didn't hear it. I got it there. Alphabetical. I just couldn't see it. Trying to just eating. Yeah.
So when we talked about the cervical, you already had that down at 5242.
Cervical? No, I didn't.
Oh,
And we had the lumbar.
5, 2,
well,
4.
I wrote down 524, but that 5242, but that might be. I see cervical strain under alpha at 5237,
We can
Which is
check
what I
both
had-
codes out.
which is what I had for lower lumbar.
Okay. Check both of those codes out. Yeah, lower lumbar I had is 5237 as well.
The acid reflux, did you find that? Is there another name for it?
They don't have it under acid. So it would be
What do you call that?
it's a gastrointestinal?
Yeah, I bet you it is.
So there you may want to go back to the digestive system. Acid reflux.
I see, when I first went to work
Yeah.
as an advocate, the rating specialists in the federal building had big, long tables behind them. And there were all of these books lapped over one another. And they had to turn around and flip through them. Now they're all on the computer.
Yeah. I don't see acid reflux under the digestive
call that?
system. I see gastritis. Is that?
Chronic adjustment.
Things that seem to resonate, like colitis. Is that the same as colitis?
No, the acid reflux means it burps back up into his esophagus.
GERD.
Right.
Huh?
GERD, I think they also call it.
Gerd.
GERD, gastroesophageal
Reflux
disease.
Esophagus spasm?
Where's the G's? EF. Gastritis.
Heartburn.
Gastritis. Gastritis.
But I did just see irritable.
Well, what if that, see, that one of the things also, if they don't have a specific diagnostic code for the condition, they will try to fit it into the one closest to it.
I'm doing all right.
And that's where we need to know something about what these are. I mean,
Yeah. But that's something that you can only learn through time and study.
but I did come across irritable bowel syndrome. Do we have that yet?
No, huh? Did you find it?
Yeah, that's 7319. So it's actually under colon irritable syndrome.
Uh-huh.
And the code there is
Is 7319.
7319. Okay.
And it's under colon?
Yeah, colon irritable syndrome.
The TBI found that. Did we already have
Where
that?
is it? No.
Page 854,
Page what?
854, 8045 is the diagnostic code.
8045?
Yes.
8045.
Yes.
Okay, the right knee and the left knee.
That's going to be musculoskeletal.
It's going to be a joint.
Yeah, it'd be more joint. Yeah.
Try to make this purchase.
Well, there's also, the Appendix C, which is alphabetical index of disabilities, and I see under leg,
Uh-huh.
we have, what do we have under leg? Doesn't really list anything about joints under leg.
Let's go back over here. Muscular skeletal. Here we go. Going back over to page 845. The hip and the thigh, the spine, the knee and the leg. Here we go.
With the hip, I also have entries on it.
Your service connected for those?
Yes.
The hip? Which one?
Both.
Both? Okay, so, you have a limitation of extension on your hips?
I think it's the limited range of motion, probably.
Yeah. Any problems with the thigh?
No.
Hip flail joint. Now, what in the world is a hip flail joint?
Say that again?
Hip flail joint.
That ball socket joint.
Okay, we're talking about probably the diagnostic codes 5250 all the way down to 5255. And we don't have the hips down here.
52, okay.
Oh, that's a new one.
Okay, both hips?
Yes.
Did we get tinnitus and acid reflux coded out yet?
We never did find acid reflux.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did?
And what you call it,
Acid reflux.
it's not acid reflux, it's GERD.
GERD.
Gastrointestinal
Gastrointestinal.
reflux disease. You may not find a specific one just for that, but now the hips, what did I say? The hip and thigh is 5250, that's,
Ankylosis.
well, it's going to be a combination apparently, and 5254. We'll look at them and see which. And we've got the knees, right?
I don't
And
know.
we don't have the knees. Okay, the knees, they go from 5256 all the way down to 5262.
Five 5256.
5256 to 5262. Now, bearing in mind, we're just amateurs at this, but
Right.
we're
So in other
trying
words,
to.
what we're doing is, we know there's a knee problem. These are what it could be. They could characterize it in one of these. We have to figure out. We would have to go back and look. As a rating specialist, I would have to go back and say which of these most closely fits the veteran's condition.
Right. Now here we have, on the digestive system, lip, tongue, esophagus spasms, peritoneum adhesion, ulcers, gastric ulcers, duodenal ulcers, marginal ulcers, gastritis, hypertrophic, post-gastrectomy syndrome, stomach stenosis, stomach injury of residuals of stomach injury. Oh, I don't know where that goes. Okay, I think we've got enough to start working
Yeah.
on. On the hearing loss, I gave that to you. What did I say it was?
486 on page 800.
800. And it's 486
486 is the CFR or the
CFR.
Yeah.
4.86 on page 800. We wanted to get to this young man too, right?
Yep, yeah, we'll do that.
At the break.
Yeah.
800.
So do we have a diagnostic code for tinnitus?
Tinnitus, get back over here.
Tinnitus, I
find
haven't
one?
seen
Not yet.
the code yet.
Here you go. 6260 on page 848.
6260.
Tinnitus.
Page 848.
Yeah, tinnitus recurrent.
6260 on page what?
848.
Okay.
What we have so far now is the codes that the VA
Would assign.
a claim, or the veteran system having these problems. They would go through with the information they have, and now our job as claims agents is to go back and examine those codes in light of the information that we now have through thorough evaluation of the records and personal interviews to see, are those codes appropriate, or was the rating appropriate?
Correct.
Or does that need to be changed? And we
Right.
have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 13 to 15, some different ones. Perry, how many do you count up?
I've got 14.
14 different things that we'd be looking at there.
Well, add to that the bilateral factor. When you have two of the same joints involved, you've got a bilateral factor.
Okay?
Which means that's two separate claims.
No, they have to look at it.
Okay.
And if you got problems with both wrists, and your dominant one, you're left-handed, and then you fractured your right one and you're left-handed. Had he fractured his left wrist, then that's called a major joint, and that's rated differently than the minor joint.
Okay.
And actually, a question about the bilateral factor. That comes into play when you have injuries or problems with both joints. When you go in, what about the issue of you're going to favor one over the other and create another one later? Is that bilateral at a later point?
Well, if you're coming in with the bilateral factor already, if you're coming in with both hips, that involves the bilateral factor. If you come in with one joint and you later on favored that bad joint, and the good one goes bad, then that's where you come in. And at that point, they'll have to take that into consideration. It's as best we can tell. Remember that we're not experts.
Right. And so now what our homework will be is to start reading through all the documentation that we have, examining the codes, taking copious notes on this so that we can put together a plan of attack.
Okay.
And right now we'll, if there's any other thing from the class here, otherwise we'll take a break.
Yeah.
And then we have another interview that we can do with a veteran. So we're going to take a look at what the current situation is and how that might have changed.
Okay.
So let's take a break.